I had 17 different symptoms of perimenopause before I went to my provider, and not one of them was a hot flash.
Well, come to think of it, like when you were saying that, I was like, huh, did I even know menopause existed when I was
Yeah.
getting my period?
But like, I think a lot of people in our society value women as being youthful and they can't age. And so it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm aging. It's like official, I am aging. And I think that's so important to point out. About 1 in 5 women going through perimenopause and menopause actually change their career. And the majority of the women that come in my doors to ask for a divorce are women in perimenopause.
We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated. Secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
What if I told you that menopause is actually not something to fear or necessarily worry about, but it's possibly something that we can get excited about? That is what we are going to go through with our guest today. And I am so excited for you to listen in on this conversation where we really go deep on all the different aspects and perspectives of whether you're in it already or you're on your way there. I think you'll get a lot out of this. So without further ado, let's go to the conversation. Today we have with us Suzanne Greiner, registered nurse, board certified nurse coach, and menopause educator. And you might be thinking, what does menopause have to do with productivity? But some surprising things happen and it can really derail what we're getting done and how we're spending our time. So I'm really excited about this conversation. We're going to talk about why so many of us feel unprepared when it comes, like sideswiped of why did no one tell me what to expect or what was going to happen. And Suzanne's mission is helping us understand what's happening so that we can actually thrive, not just survive through it. The point is not just to get through it or muscle through it, it's to really feel good through that process. So, welcome, Suzanne. It is so wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure being here and just using my voice to spread education to women that are going through this and potentially partners that their, significant other is going through this as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great point. Because, yeah, it doesn't just affect the person it's happening to, it affects everyone around.
Correct. Yeah.
So, why do you think it is that nobody tells us like what to expect, what's coming, and like how can we be more prepared ahead of time?
Yeah. I think that's a good question to ask because I think a lot of us are trying to understand why no one told us. Like, I'm Generation X, and like, why didn't our moms tell us this? Or why isn't our healthcare system really talking about this until just now? And a lot of it has to do with education. So there was a big study that came out in 2002, the WHI study that you probably, a lot of people are talking more and more about, but that pretty much took a look at hormone replacement therapy for women. And basically it said, oh, if you're on hormone replacement therapy, you're at a high risk, you're going to have breast cancer, which is incorrect. It's not true. They've gone back and reviewed that or some of the things from that study. There's actually one arm of that study that never got a lot of publicity, and that was the estrogen only arm of that study. And that actually reduced the rate of breast cancer, but no one really talked about that. So because that was like that big hook of like, oh my gosh, it causes breast cancer, a lot of medical institutions stopped educating our medical providers or medical students or residents into, the benefits of hormone replacement therapy. And it wasn't until like the late 80s, early 90s that women actually were more a part of pharmaceutical studies because we had the fluctuating hormones. And so like a lot of people didn't want to study medications on women because of our fluctuating hormones. So it's just so many different factors. And I think we really come into light now of like how important and how underfunded women's healthcare is in the US. So multiple factors for sure. But
Wow. Yeah, that's just blows my mind. And you've already told me that, and it's the second time hearing it, and I'm still like, wow.
exactly. Yeah, it's still kind of like it's amazing to me that we are living in 2025 and we're just starting to, do the tip of the iceberg of women's health, especially when it gets to menopause care or perimenopausal care, because we have a lot of like any kind of funding that they have for women's health is usually in the OB, obstetrics era when you're having babies. A lot of it is in that stage of life versus like after, you're done having babies and what does that look like? So yeah, so I feel like even though it's 2025, I feel like we're finally making this movement that there needs to be more awareness and more studies done in this particular area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just so glad that people are finally talking about it so that, I mean, even, generations to come, they're going to be coming in with a completely different lens and like so much more ready
Mhm.
than some of us have been.
Right. I have two teenage daughters. So it's like we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. They're starting their menstrual cycle. I'm in perimenopause. So I'm like towards the end of my menstrual cycle. And it's just like two extreme ends. But my daughters know more now about menopause and perimenopause than I ever did, especially at that age. And they asked me, like, why are we not being told this? And, when we're as a part of our menstrual cycle, like the stuff that we were being taught in school. And I'm like, that's a great question. But hopefully, in the future, you never know what could change.
Well, come to think of it, like when you were saying that, I was like, huh, did I even know menopause existed when I was
Yeah.
getting my period? I don't think I did.
Right. And even as a nurse going through nursing school, we had a rotation in OB, OB to like to help deliver babies. And I don't remember too much information. I mean, it's been 25 plus years ago, but it's been like, I don't remember any information about menopause. And I just remember like when I first started my career as a nurse, I did a lot of education for patients in cardiovascular care, like after they've had a procedure done. And a lot of the female patients asked about HRT. And this is about the time that the WHI study came out. And I'm like, I don't know. This is a great question for your providers. So even I, as a nurse, like several years ago, did not receive the proper training. So
Mhm. Wow. So, okay. And it's not just about the hot flashes, right? Like what else is happening in our bodies?
So I think it's so important for us to really take a look at what's happening in our bodies. And I think it's important to know like what's a normal menstrual cycle, what happens. Basically, towards, your life, you are having normal menstrual cycles. Every, 4 weeks, you're having, a different part of your menstrual cycle. And then you get to the end of your like reproductive years where basically you've gone through the majority of your eggs and your ovaries and your body is trying super hard to ovulate every single month. And it's getting to that end of that egg supply. And it's like, wait, it's not as easy to release this egg and
Yeah.
ovulate every single month. So your body starts doing a lot of different things. Plus, you start having this decrease in your estrogen and decrease in your progesterone. Progesterone and estrogen are the two main driver hormones in our body as females. We do also have testosterone as a woman. And I think that gets overlooked sometimes, that how important it is that plays in a woman's body. It does play a lot. Testosterone has a nice, gentle, sometimes not so gentle decline. And it usually hits about the time that we're in perimenopause, that, the decline of testosterone. And then you have the fluctuating estrogen, progesterone. But basically, what's happening is that your body is like always wants to be in homeostasis. So it's trying super hard every single month to be in that homeostasis. And so your body is trying hard and different signals and different things that it does to maintain that homeostasis. And when it's worked so hard, it can't do that anymore. It starts signaling to us like, hey, I'm doing the best I can. Can you help me out a little bit more? And so we started developing these weird symptoms. And I think it's important to know that we don't have estrogen just and progesterone, just like in our uterus, in our ovaries, in our reproductive parts of our female body. We have it in every receptors in every single organ system in our body. So we'll have joint pain. And that's because estrogen is a big anti-inflammatory. And so when you start having that joint pain, you're like, oh, the estrogen is a little bit lower. You're going to have more inflammatory processes going on in your body. So the joint pain and a bunch of other things. But there's over 70 different symptoms that women can have that are all related to perimenopause. So there's definitely like a great list out there. It's not just the hot flashes, but that's the most common thing that people think. I had 17 different symptoms of perimenopause before I went to my provider, and not one of them was a hot flash. And so I think it's really important to know, like, you can go through perimenopause not having a hot flash whatsoever.
70. That is
Yeah.
a lot.
It is a lot. And you think about it, some of it's just random symptoms. And you're like,
Yeah.
what? Like, and for me, when I was going through like initially, like, what's going on with my body? Cause like I started, like, I don't feel like myself. That was like the main thing. And then I started having joint pain and I started noticing weight gain. And then all of a sudden, when I developed brain fog, that is when I'm like, I think I'm in perimenopause. Like, there's no other definition about that unless I'm in early dementia. Like, why am I? But then the other day was like, I was so exhausted. I was so fatigued. And I'm like, I would go to bed at 7:30 at night and wake up in the morning. Thought I slept through the night. And then I would wake up feeling as though I still needed to sleep for 3 more hours. And I was just like, what is going on with my body? And how can I be productive during my workday if I'm not like getting enough sleep? And so that's when I started to like put this all together. But it finally, like, all these random symptoms, there was like this, I couldn't, as a nurse, I'm like, where's that like invisible string that ties all
Yeah.
these random symptoms together? And finally it was like, I realized when it was perimenopause, it was like, oh my gosh. And women, we spend thousands of dollars getting diagnostic tests done or extra treatment done. And that happens to me. Like, I had extra chiropractic therapy, physical therapy, acupuncture, all these extra tests and treatments done because I was like, what's going on with my body? And so once you put in like, oh, this is perimenopause, all I need to do are like a few these things to feel better. That's when I was just like, oh my gosh, that was that invisible string that tied all these random symptoms together. So I think it's really important for women to know, like, if you're experiencing weird random symptoms, check and see maybe it's perimenopause. So,
Yeah. And emotions are part of those symptoms.
oh yes. I would say, so I have 3 teenagers and my 2023, 2024 is like when I was like in the middle of my chaos of perimenopause. And my son went, like, he was graduating high school last year and he said to me, Mom, why are you on my case so much? I was so irritable. And I was just like, what is going on? And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm usually pretty laid back. And then I had increased anxiety. I was just like these random things would come up. Like, why am I so anxious about that? And then I started noticing I was having increased ADHD symptoms. I was like, I couldn't complete a task. It was just so flighty. It was like over here, over there, everywhere. I was just could not focus on one thing to get it done. And then like, I've never had really depression in my life. And I experienced depression a couple different times in my perimenopausal journey. I was just like, what is this? And I was like down and out for several weeks. And I'm like, I can't believe this is going on with me. And that, once I started, like, for me, I chose to start hormone replacement therapy. And once I started that, a lot of these symptoms resolved over time. So it was like, for me, it was a godsend.
And you kind of alluded to this in the beginning, but you talked about like the partners of the person going through that. Like, how does that affect our relationships or even at work, like interacting with people at work or even like the relationship with ourselves?
Well, I think so. Like, I'll start with ourselves, like the relationship with ourselves. Cause I think for me, like once I finally admitted to myself that like, I think I'm in perimenopause, I felt this immediate shame because I think women in our society, not women, but like, I think a lot of people in our society value women as being youthful and they can't age. And so it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm aging, it's like official. I'm aging. And market it like, weight loss stuff and skincare products to all look like youthful and stay young. And then it's like, then you start realizing the point of the career that you're climbing this corporate ladder and you are kind of at the height of your career, if not accelerating even more. And you're starting to be like, oh my gosh, I'm starting. Like, I remember being in a meeting one time and like the words would not come to me. And I like the people that I was working with, they knew I lived in Colorado. So I was just like, oh my gosh, you're probably going to think I'm high or something because I could not form a sentence. I was just like, so I could not form a thought. Like things wouldn't come to me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it really devastated me. It really like, I felt a lot of shame around it because I was just like, wow, if I cannot perform how I usually perform, what does that say about me? And actually, about 1 in 5 women going through perimenopause and menopause actually change their career because they cannot function as much as they used to. And they don't know that it's really perimenopause or menopause at the time. And once they start doing these different things to improve their health and well-being, they start to be like, oh, now I can function better. Now I can do things like I can perform as much as I was. So it really questions like our career path and really questions who we are and how we contribute to society. But then in our partners, it's like, it's one of those things like I've talked to a lot of different people in the community. And one of the ladies that came to my event, she is a divorce attorney. And she's like, oh my goodness. She goes, the majority of the women that come in my doors to ask for a divorce are women in perimenopause. And I wonder if a lot of this has to do with because now they're irritable, now they can't stand their partner anymore. It's just like, or their partner's like, you're going crazy. Like they just don't understand the dynamics of a woman going through these transitions in life. And so I think a lot of it has to come down to like, number one, the woman recognizing, I think I'm in perimenopause and menopause and having a honest conversation with your partner and be like, okay, this is what's going on with me physically, and it affects me emotionally too. This is going to affect some of our emotional, capabilities within this relationship. But also there's a lot of changes within our libido and a lot of vaginal changes, vaginal health changes that happen that could affect, our sex life with our partner. So there's so many other components. It's just not like you're going through perimenopause. It affects everyone around you, like your whole family, like if your kids and your partner and whatever it may be, even sometimes your friendships, because sometimes you may get irritable with them. Like, I can't stand them anymore. So I think it's really, I think it's important to be like, number one, check in with yourself and like, okay, this is what I'm going through, but how can I improve my own health so then it can help improve those lives around me as well. And then also having your family and your partner, having that open conversation with them.
Yeah, right. Well, again, it invites in that support that makes you feel so much better through that process. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not alone. I
Right.
have people backing me.
And I think that's so important to point out, like you just said, like a lot of women, we feel alone in this because we don't know what's going on with our body and we feel like we're going crazy. And then to have another, like your supportive partner or your partner even say it, maybe mention to you, like, oh my gosh, you're going crazy. And it's just like you feel even more isolated because you're just like, maybe I am crazy. And you start questioning your own self. And I think it's important to know that there's a tribe of women, like there's a huge generation of women going through this. And you just have to find those supportive people that are going through this as well. And a lot of times, like our girlfriends are going through the same thing. And so we just have to reach out and actually open up the conversation. And I've held some events and it's just been like this fun thing where people like, they're kind of like timid at first, like, oh yes, I think my body's changing. Yes, I'll come to this event. And they maybe think there's like 4 or 5 people that are just like them. And they leave that event with 30 or 40 women that are going through the same thing as they are. And they realize like, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. I feel so much better. I feel empowered that I can make these changes in my life and I'm not alone. Like that's huge for a lot of women to know that.
Yes. Well, and that's kind of the most important part. And the part I'm most excited about for this episode is like that we can actually be empowered. So I want to ask you, do you think that menopause is just our body aging, or is it just asking for something different?
I think it's a combination of both because I really feel I've never really like I hate the term like midlife crisis because I
Yeah.
don't think it is. I think it's this midlife awakening. And I heard that term before and it's like I
I
love
love
that
that.
midlife awakening because a lot of physiological changes happen. Like,
Yeah.
the less estrogen we have kind of means the less F's that we, give about things. So it's just like the estrogen is that nurturing kind of hormone of like, it soars during motherhood. It soars during that time from like we are nurturing. But then as we age, we're like, no, we've given ourselves to so many other people in our lives. Now it's time to finally focus on myself and my own health and well-being to really make those changes. So yes, there's that physiological aging part of
Yeah.
going on, but there's also that reclamation of like, oh my gosh, I get to choose what the rest of my life looks like now. I
Yeah.
have like maybe spent the first, third to half of my life nurturing and taking care of other people and giving of other people. Now I get to focus on myself. And I think a lot of times I hear a lot of women that are scared, like, oh my gosh, I'm scared to go through perimenopause or menopause. And I think it's really important for women to realize that we should celebrate this. Like we have given
Yeah.
so much to other people. Like we have outlived almost every other species on the planet to reach menopause of humans and whales. And I think there's one other species that outlive your reproductive years and hit menopause. And I think it's important, like every single woman on this planet, if you get the privilege of living to midlife, you will get to experience menopause and you get to choose, like it's a mindset of how you get to choose what your menopause journey looks like. And that's what I talk to a lot of my clients about. It's just like, you get to choose, like you can let it become your identity and make it miserable, or you can make it this identity of like, yes, I'm celebrating what I'm going through and I'm going to make the rest of my life very empowering and moving so I can really leave a legacy for other people.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I love the idea of like, okay, that like this is your time to take care of you and prioritize your health.
Yes. I talk a lot about longevity and it finally clicked to me because I think for women, we have been, especially Gen Xers and older millennials, we've been marketed weight loss and like all these weight loss trends. And we are always at the forefront of all these weight loss trends. And like during my perimenopause journey, I gained about 25 pounds. And I was just trying to like, how can I lose this weight so quickly? Because that's how we were
Yeah.
taught
Yep.
like growing up of like, oh my gosh, how do I lose this quickly? And then finally I realized like, wait, it's no longer about a quick weight loss in the perimenopause. That I got to choose, I got to make decisions today to make choices for my future self. So what do I want my 85-year-old body to be thanking me for today that I'm doing? So then I was just like, okay, like what do I want my 85-year-old body to be doing? I'm like, I, live in Colorado. I want to be hiking. I want to be that 85-year-old woman still hiking trails on the mountain. And you're like, oh my gosh, you see them on the trails. And you're like, I love seeing these older women hiking. And I'm like, I want to be that person. And I
Yeah.
don't want to be the 85-year-old laying in a nursing home and miserable. So what do I need to do so that my 85-year-old body can thank me for the choices I'm making today? So it's more about longevity when you hit perimenopause and menopause than that, oh my gosh, I'm going through the change, kind of thing. So I think it's very important for women to realize this is a long, long game. It's no longer a short game.
Yeah. Well, and also the importance of just addressing it and facing it so that you can do something about it versus ignoring it until you're, beyond that point of no return.
Right, right, right. And I think the generation ahead of us, they were just like, it's a part of life and it's a part of change and it's just a part of getting older. And it's not like, I mean, yes, it is, but then you can make it empowering for you to make those choices and decisions to make that big change.
Yeah. What about boundaries?
Mm. I love this because I think as women, some women are really good with boundaries and some women are like, especially Gen Xers and older millennials. I'm just saying this generation a lot because we're like in the midst of this perimenopausal wave that's coming through. But I did a deep dive into Gen Xers and older millennials, and we have been people pleasers our whole entire life. We have been that generation of like, we had to grow up early, like grow up fast. And
Yeah.
then we also had like, we were taught like how to like people please and how to, we can have it all and all this stuff. And it's exhausting. Like it really is truly exhausting. Like after a while, you're like, why am I doing this? And I think
Yeah.
it's so important for women, especially now, if you are not if you have not been good with boundaries, this is the time to do that, because this boundaries is not it's not that that whole I'm going to do this, you're pushing people off. It's no, it's like that self-love to yourself of no, I can tolerate this, but after this point, I can't tolerate it anymore. Cause then it goes into and encroaches in on my love for myself. And I think that's so important for us to really it's okay to love ourselves, and that we should be loving ourselves. And ourselves should be the first love of our life. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, especially in perimenopause and menopause, we're not going to be able to have that longevity. Like I talked about, being that 85-year-old woman, active and everything, if we don't start having those good boundaries now and learning not to be that people pleaser that we've been taught our whole entire life.
Right. Yeah. And it's there, gosh, the layers of like actually setting boundaries and how hard that can actually be, because it's really what, like you said, it's an act of self-love. It's what we're doing for ourselves,
Yeah.
not controlling anyone else. And
Right.
so to be able to like make that decision, like, okay, if you continue to do this, even if I still love you, I might have to walk away or exit the room or right. Like, it doesn't mean I don't care for you. It means, like you said, I can't tolerate this anymore. And
Right.
that follow through, oof, that can be
Yeah.
hard.
Well, exactly. Cause I've been a people pleaser my whole entire life. And I had just went through this relationship change over the summer, and we had taken, a break. And it was when he came back into my life, I was just I have boundaries. You
Yeah.
do not talk to me. This is how you have to enter my world. Blah, blah, blah. I was really stern with it. But then it was just okay, no, let me, what is it that I want? And
Yeah.
in that few month break, I was writing what is it that I need in my life, and what is it that I want in my life, so that I can show up to love myself first. And so it was really a big thing. And that was huge for me. And I think that during that break, it was that moment of I could actually create the boundaries that I wanted and needed in my life that I didn't realize I did, and so that was so important for me.
I love that. And what about I'm sure part of that is like fearing what other people think of us,
Mhm.
right?
Oh yeah. I think that's a huge thing. I think it's always that fear of what, I laugh about this because I'm every time I think I'm oh, I'm past that. I'm totally
Yeah.
past that. I don't care what people think about me. And then you're in those little quiet moments, you're oh wait, did I really make them pissed off about me? Or did I do something to make them upset? And the majority of the time it's other people are not even, they don't even realize what your insecurity was, or what, the fear of making them upset or anything like that. It was never a part of that. It was always they're thinking about their own stuff. And it's, a lot of times it's just we put so much weight on that we realize when we do that, we're taking away a part of us when we do that. And it's so important that we stay focused on our own health and well-being. And I think it's, especially when we've been giving to so many other people in our life, it's, slowing down and really taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. That like visual of giving away a piece of yourself actually hurt when I was thinking about that as you were saying it. I was like, oof.
Right. And I feel I was almost going to say I feel bad, but as a mom, I have to put boundaries up with my kids,
Yeah.
in a way that because sometimes they are really good about encroaching on my time, on my time. It sounds
Yeah.
really bad, but it's not. But mom, do this, I'm gonna do that. I'm okay,
Right. Yeah.
slow down. Let's I have just a certain amount of space right here that can do this X, Y, and Z. I can't get everything on your to-do list done here because I have all this other stuff working over here that you're not aware of. How about we focus on this other stuff that you want me to do over the course of the next 2 days or whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
it's even just teaching them boundaries, even though I think as a mom, it's so easy for us to be oh, okay, yes, yes, I'm a mom. I can do this all. I gotta, wear this hat of I can handle everything. And it's it takes away a part of us. And I think one thing, especially in perimenopause, is I have these little bursts of energy, and I'm like, I have to conserve my energy sometimes, especially like if I know that I have a busy day. I'm like, okay, like I need to make sure that I'm conserving my energy to do X, Y, and Z. And then I have a little bit of time here and not be like, overzealous of like, oh, I could do it all. Like I've
Yeah.
really managed my time into like making sure that I have adequate energy for each one of these things. And like sometimes I'll tell my kids, I'm like, all right, I've hit my wall for the day. I'm going to bed. And they're like, oh, it's only like 8:39. And they're like up later. I'm like, I know I need to just like, like I've been busy all day long. I just need to like have a few moments to myself. And so a lot of now they're really good about it. Like they're teenagers, so they're pretty understanding. But yeah. So it's just that communication with my teens when I have those little moments.
Yeah, that's huge. And so like one of my goals for all of us is that we feel as good as possible for as long as possible so that we can do what we want to do with our time and with our lives. And like you're talking about being intentional about where we're kind of dispersing that energy that we have that is finite, unfortunately.
Right.
We wish it wasn't, but it is. So how do we, with that lens of longevity, how do we support our body and mind to be able to, like, whether we're like not even in perimenopause yet, maybe we're like, encroaching on, or, starting perimenopause, or we're in full menopause. How do we support our body through this to be
Well, there's
ready and prepared?
Yeah, I think there's a few different things. So we talked a little bit about HRT, hormone replacement therapy, to kind of help support your hormones,
Yeah.
because they get lower over time, and supporting them for longevity is one component. But there's also lifestyle changes that you can do. There, I always talk to my clients. The number one thing is making sure, and this is even for people maybe in their 30s, these are lifestyle changes you can start making now. So you don't have to wait till perimenopause to do that. Base number one, nutrition is the foundation for everything. We want our cells down to the cellular level working efficiently as much as possible. So protein is the biggest thing. Everyone wants protein. Protein is a good thing to have in your diet. I'm not going to go into that too much, but one thing that we as Americans, we don't eat enough of is fiber. So if we can get 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day, super helpful for us. That also helps regulate our blood sugar over time as well. So you don't have those dips of your blood sugar going down. And we kind of have that blood sugar crash is when we like lose energy. Like we're just like that middle of the day feeling of like, oh my gosh, I need it, another coffee or whatever it may be. I think it's really important for us to realize that sometimes we just need to add more fiber in our diet so our glucose levels stay level longer, so we don't have that crash in our blood sugar in the middle of the day, and then we have to like have a pick me up. The other thing about nutrition is just making sure that you're getting healthy fats. So omega-3s, anything with omega-3s will be helpful for us over time. Our gut health changes a lot during perimenopause and menopause. So I think it's good to have a healthy gut, especially prior to going into perimenopause. So that nutritional balance is really important. But the main thing is making sure that having those, protein and fiber are so, so important. The other thing is exercise. Our exercise is a little bit different. We should be more into strength training as we age, because we do have a 1 to 3% muscle loss after the age of like 40. And that also affects our basal metabolic rate as well. So that is a huge component. The more muscle you have, you burn more calories. So that's super helpful. But as we age, we lose that muscle mass even more as we get older. And that helps with our bone density. And we really want our strong bones over time. So we really want to make sure that, that your exercise contains a lot of strength training. So lift heavy is a huge thing. Also, like walking, maybe not doing those, intense cardio exercises, but walking is so good for us over time. There's so many different studies coming out lately
Yeah.
that walking is so important. But then also sleep. We never want to underestimate the value of sleep, because our body does so much during the sleep. And a lot of the women that are maybe perimenopause or menopause are like, you got to be kidding me. My sleep sucks during this time frame. There's a lot of different things that you can do to help your sleep. And won't go into it too much, but there's a lot of different things. But having a good sleep routine is super, super helpful. It helps our body with weight loss. It helps our body function better. But then also stress, any kind of stress management. And like, I always kind of laugh at this because I'm like saying all these lifestyle changes, but a lot
Yeah.
of women are like, I cannot add one more thing to my plate. And so sometimes I work with clients to reduce our stress first before we start doing all those
Mm,
lifestyle changes because
yeah.
you can't add more to an already full plate. So how
Right.
can we let go of some of the stuff in your life or some of the stressors in your life, some of those energy zappers, and it really like focus in on like, okay, now that we found those energy zappers, now we can like focus on this. So we can really truly make those long-term changes instead of those like, oh, I tried it for, a month and I couldn't keep up with it. I hear that a lot. And we hear that all the time with New Year's resolutions and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like our stress resilience during this time frame is really declined because our estrogen actually is a part of our stress resilience. The more cortisol we have, it actually decreases our progesterone. So there's a lot of different factors that go into place. So stress is really important to work on. And the other thing I think is super important that helps us kind of maintain this energy balance is having a sense of community. So knowing that you're not alone in this and that you have your peers or a community of other women going through this that are at your fingertips to be like, I need to talk to you about this. I feel like I'm going crazy. Can we have a conversation? So just having someone like in your corner is super helpful to kind of help you throughout this time. So those are the 5 key things: the nutrition, the exercise, the sleep, the stress, and community are so important for women during this time frame.
That's amazing. And the one that surprises me is the fiber,
Yes.
balancing the glucose. I was just like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
So how do
Right.
we get that amount of fiber in a day? Like, what would that look like?
So it's interesting because a lot of people are like, and this is my other thing is like everyone wants a quick pill to fix everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can take fiber supplements, but we have a
Okay.
lot of foods that do have fiber in it.
Okay.
I try to have I kind of front load my day with fiber. So like is it keeps me fuller longer. And so it's kind of like there's that saying like you should eat, how you eat your meals throughout your day should be like you should eat like a king for breakfast, a prince for lunch, and a pauper for dinner. So you should eat like a bigger front loading, breakfast and lunch. You're going to have a lighter dinner, and it actually helps support your digestive system when you do it like that. So
Yeah.
for breakfast, like I feel like chia seeds and avocados are one of those, like especially chia seeds are like if you can have chia seeds, they have protein, they have fiber, ground flax seeds. I put it all in like a smoothie with protein powder. My protein powder has like 5 grams of fiber. So there's
Oh,
5 grams
nice.
of fiber right there. And then chia seeds, has anywhere from like 6 to 8 grams. So there's 11 to 13 grams right there. So I'm already at least halfway through. And that, sometimes, and that's not including the fruit, like, raspberries are really good and blueberries. The berries are really good for that. The
Okay.
other thing I talk about is like we become more insulin resistant during this time frame. So if you eat any carbohydrates, which I don't feel like you should restrict carbohydrates during this time frame because your body still needs that and needs that support of carbohydrates, but you need to eat them with a healthy fat, fiber, or protein so you don't have that big glucose spike and that big glucose dip. And you maintain that glucose level longer so you stay full longer too. So it's one of those little hacks that I usually teach my clients is, making sure that you wrap your carbs with a healthy fat, fiber, or protein.
That is so cool. I'm actually really excited about that because that's brand new information to
Oh,
me. And I think that like all of us can use that. And
right.
also I eat blueberries
Yes,
like they're going out of style.
I
So
do too. I'm the same
so
way. I
glad that they
love,
have fiber in them.
yes, they have a little bit. So not like a huge amount, but they have a little bit. And I think blueberries are like my favorite antioxidant fruit. So good for you. It doesn't spike your glucose too much. It's like so good. It's like my favorite go-to. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's one of the fruits that I started eating when I realized like things like apples or peaches or cherries would kind of mess things up. And
Yeah.
so blueberries was like that safe, easy go to grab and go.
Right, exactly. And I feel like apples are good. Apples are good with fiber, but make sure you eat your apple with peanut butter, which is that healthy fat or protein that you can have with that, or like a handful of almonds that doesn't spike that blood sugar as high, but it also has the fiber from the peel itself. So it kind of helps with that a little bit more when you add in that extra protein. So if you have an apple, have it with a little bit of protein or healthy fats.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I do. I like blueberries are my favorite for sure. So
Same. Yeah. And I definitely do in my smoothies, I do the ground flaxseed,
oh yeah.
definitely do the chia. Sometimes I'll also add them to my oats, like
Oh,
overnight
yes.
oats.
Yep.
And so what was the other thing you said?
Avocado.
Protein powder. I was thinking about
The protein powder. Yeah. So avocado has a little bit of fiber and it has protein in it too. So it's kind of like that mysterious kind of thing too, that you can add into your smoothie. You may not even taste your avocado in there, but it's just like one of those things. But yeah, I do like my protein powder does have some fiber in it, which is so if you can find a protein powder, that's just an extra little thing that you can add to your breakfast and it's good for you. So
supplementing the protein as a powder is okay.
I feel like it is. There's some you have to make sure it's a complete protein because some
Okay.
so like the collagen powder that has some protein, it's not complete protein. So you do have to make sure if you do have that, know that you have to have something more to make that a complete protein. Like I think it's tryptophan is usually that other, thing that you need to eat to make that, kind of that complete protein. So just making sure that that protein in your, shake, your protein powder is a complete protein. And then I feel like that's fine. So.
Okay, cool. How would we check if there's a brand we like or if there's one we're looking at? How do we know if that's a complete protein?
I think usually the labeling has been really good lately. I think it's improving that that it's a complete protein. And I know for sure majority of the protein powders are, I do know that the collagen powders are not the complete protein. So those are for sure the ones that are not the complete protein. Obviously you can Google and say like, is this a complete
Okay.
protein? So
Yeah.
a lot of times that will tell you a little bit more. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's really helpful because I know I've gone back and forth on the whole protein powder thing of like, do I, supplement with that? Do I not?
Yeah. I think if you're having a hard time getting it with the whole foods, I really feel like that's okay to have that. Just make sure that, you're reading the label of your protein powder, that there's not this extra stuff that you don't need in there. So just really be mindful of what the ingredients are in your protein powder. So just be mindful of like, I don't know about this, and just, check and see if that's something you should be eating or not, or consuming or not, over a long period of time. So just be mindful of those things.
That's really good. And we're not affiliates here or
Right.
bring any brands, but are there any that you do recommend or that you do have favorites?
So my favorite, because I feel like it tastes really good and it's lower sugar. Not, I think it only has like 5 grams of sugar and it has the fiber in there. The carbs are kind of that lower amount, but it's Transform.
Okay.
So I like it. Chris Powell, he was a big fitness guy a few years ago. He makes it. I love it. Like I feel like the flavoring is good. It's like some protein powders are like, oh, I can tell it's a protein powder.
Yeah.
Like, well, this one tastes really good, but I like it because it has that extra fiber in there. And then when I look at other protein powders, they don't have as much. So that's, my go-to. So
Awesome.
I'm definitely not affiliated with them, but I have like recommended it a lot.
Yeah. Maybe we should become affiliates.
I know. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, okay. So we kind of talk through this process and, the listeners here are going to be kind of at different, ranges in this process. But what's next? Like, how do we, just start to define like that chapter, that next chapter for us and like what we want our identity to be, what we want to prioritize, what we want to, give our passion to?
Yeah, that's such a great question because I feel like we're not often asked that next question, like what's next?
Yeah.
And I think number one is that if you are in perimenopause and menopause, number one, first and foremost, physically, you need to take care of yourself first. Like what physically you need to do so that you can start feeling like your kind of quote unquote normal self again. Does that mean going on hormone replacement therapy, which there's a lot of benefits long term for women going on hormone replacement therapy. But then also like my favorite thing to do is like what do I want my future self to look like? So it's almost like future forecasting, like,
Yeah.
when I am retired or when I am at X amount of age, sometimes I even just do it 6 months from now, because sometimes we can't even think that far in the future. Like, what do I want my health and well-being to look like 6 months from now? And just start writing down and like, all right, these are like, I want to be, you know, like, I don't know, I want to have more strength. Like, I want to be lifting weights more. I want to be feeling good in my clothing. Like, what is it? Those things are like, I want to feel like my normal self again. What is it that you want to do? And then you have to start like go back tracing and like, okay, what do I need to do today that myself in 6 months from now will thank me for? Like, and then you start like, I can be doing, let me start small, because sometimes I know for me, like, I'm like, this is all it's like, I'm doing all like starts.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one thing. It's just very, what's the very first small step that you can take so that you can reach that 6 month goal from now. And I think it's really important to do those shorter term things first, because then once we do that in 6 months and you look back at your journey over the last 6 months, then it motivates you to be like, wow, I made this much change in the 6 months. Now I can start looking forward even farther in the future and be like, okay, like if I saw this, little like moment of change in the last 6 months, I know I can reach that 85-year-old goal, of when I'm 85 years old. And just really like, okay, that motivates me to make these additional changes and just understand that there's going to be ebbs and flows. And like, there's going to be some days like, I don't feel like doing this, and that's okay. Like, don't get upset at yourself. Don't just talk bad to yourself and feel down about it. Just like, I just had a bad day, and it is okay to have a bad day. Tomorrow can be completely different. And it's just kind of have the ebb and flow of what your day is like and what is going on. I know over the last month, my exercise routine that I was so good about in January and beginning of February was so good. I loved it. And then like I had some changes in my hormones in February, and it's taken me a month and a half to kind of get back to where I was at. And now I have to have this little minor surgery next week. And I'm like, okay, well, after that, then I'm going to do it. So I just kind of given myself like, okay, I can do these little small things in the meantime. And it maybe take 10 minutes to do strength training at home. Like I do have the Peloton app. And so I just do a 10-minute class. I'm like, okay, I'm working on my strength training. Like that's more than not doing anything. And just be kind to yourself while you're doing this. So I think it's really important to, number one, what do you want yourself in 6 months from now to look like? And start off small and start doing that. But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things I usually tell my clients is having that future telling of yourself what you want it to be and feel in the future.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, and I like that you enunciate starting small because it really does help build confidence.
Yes. I think it's so easy to be like, I'm going to do this all. Like, and that's for me. Like, I want to take on the world. And then it's like, wait, you have one stumbling block and you're like, oh, it's just easy, because our brain likes to go to what's comfortable. And when you start off small, then it's like you start making these little changes, and then your brain's like, oh, this is not so scary anymore. This is my new norm. And so now, you start stacking these new norms. And so your brain is starting to understand and feel better, and then gain that confidence over time. So,
yes. Any like common mistakes or missteps that, maybe women take either like approaching menopause or like as they kind of start that process that you possibly wish you knew earlier that you could share?
I think the most common thing I see right now, there's two things. The most common thing is for women, they get on HRT and they're like, oh, I'm good. I feel great. I'm back to my normal self again. And they don't make any more changes in their life.
Okay.
And HRT is only one component of your life. The midlife is truly, our bodies age for women, we age significantly at 2 moments in our life. Perimenopause. So our late 40s, we have a significant aging component. And this is when our hormones are fluctuating. And again, 10 years post-menopause. So average age of menopause is about 51, 52. So about 62 to 63, our bodies significantly age again. So I feel like if we're not making these changes starting in perimenopause, we're not going to keep up with these huge
Yeah.
body changes that are aging components in our life. And we can really like step backwards a little bit. So I think it's really important. HRT is one thing, but also making sure that we are looking forward to like these lifestyle changes that we talked about, of making sure that those are also implemented. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to do that. But also, I think that there's a lot of times women feel like in this stage, like they maybe are thinking like maybe HRT isn't for me. I'm just going to rough it. I'm like, this is just a natural part of life. And I think we don't realize all the aging components that happen to us as we get older. We have higher risk for breast cancer as we age. We have higher risk for cardiovascular disease as we age, and so colon cancer and a few other things that I think a lot of women, we have it as we age even more so because we don't have that protection from our hormones. And I think I see a mistake of like, I'm just going to go all natural. And some women, they can only go all natural and just because of other risk factors. And that's completely fine. Just knowing that lifestyle changes have to be so important, especially that muscle strength, for your bone density over time, because we lose about 20% of our bone density after menopause. And that's a huge thing. And that's puts women at risk for hip fractures and dying a lot sooner because of all these mortalities or comorbidities that are happening to make us sicker faster.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for this time together. This has been absolutely amazing. I always like to wrap up every episode with the one most important thing that you want us to walk away knowing, or a new mindset to be considering, or the one thing you want us to remember or go do after this episode. What do you think that would be?
Oh, there's like so many. I say. I think the number one thing, I say this a lot, is that for women, I think it's so important for us to trust our intuition. We are very intuitive beings.
Yeah.
And we've been kind of told by society, oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're just going whatever. So we've downplayed our own intuition. We've not trusted our intuition throughout a lot of our life. And we get to perimenopause and menopause, and our body is telling us, signaling to us. So I think it's really important for us to slow down, trust our intuition. Women, either like they are gut intuitive or they're heart intuitive. And so really slowing down to understanding what is your body telling you and trusting that, and moving forward with what your body is telling you from your intuition to really move forward in your life. I think it's so, so important for us to not lose sight of that as women, especially as we age.
Beautiful words of wisdom. And I know you have some freebies and resources and things like that. Where can we find those?
My website is probably the easiest way to get that. I have some free resources on my website. It's SuzanneGreinerCoaching.com. So visit me there if you need additional information. Just fill out a form. I have a lot of free resources like Am I in Perimenopause? What to say when you go to your physician's office, and just like some core things to really know and how to treat your body during this time frame. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. It was a joy to talk to you. We'll link those resources down below in the show notes. And we're just honestly so grateful to have you here and share this with us, because like you said, it's so important, and it's whether you're already there or you're on your way, we're one of the two, right?
Exactly.
And unless there's the, unfortunate alternative, it's
Yes.
that's kind of on the path, right? And so
Yes.
being prepared, knowing what to do, knowing how to, really be empowered is so
Yes.
cool. Like
Yes.
it's not just like, oh, here's how to get through it, but like here's how to get excited about it. I mean, that is
Exactly.
just so cool. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world, and as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well-being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.